Today we're going to be talking about direct and indirect objects. The formal definition of a direct object is a noun or pronoun that receives the action of the verb or shows the result of the action. Therefore, we must have an action verb to have a direct object. To tell whether or not we have a direct object, we're going to be asking ourselves what or who or whom after an action verb. So if we look at this first sentence, Jane ate an apple, we want to first look at the verb, Jane ate. Would we label that as an action verb? Yes. So now that we have an action verb, we can look for a direct object. Jane ate what? An apple. So we would put DO above that to show that that is the direct object. Then looking at this next sentence, Mrs. Clary told the story. Is told an action verb? Here, yes it is. So now that we have an action verb, we can look for a direct object. Mrs. Clary told what? She told the story. So story would be the direct object. Finally, we have the last sentence, the dog followed the family. So we have the dog as the subject, and the dog followed is followed an action verb. Yes, it is. So now we can look for a direct object. The dog followed who? The dog followed the family. So the family is our direct object. Now that we've talked about direct objects, we need to talk about indirect objects. So indirect objects are also nouns or pronouns that come between the action verb and the direct object, and they answer one of four questions, either to what, to whom, for what, or for whom. You must have a direct object to have an indirect object. They will always come in this order right here, action verb, then indirect object, then direct object. So if we look down here at this example, we have Tom sent Katie the flowers. So now that we have an action verb, we can look for a direct object, which we know from before. So Tom sent what? The flowers, right? To whom? Katie. So Katie would be our indirect object. Let's look at this example. Dad gave the horse an apple. So we go through and we're labeling. Dad's the subject. Gave is the verb. Is it an action verb? Yes, you can physically see Dad giving the horse the apple, so it's an action verb. So Dad gave what? An apple. So apple is the direct object. To whom? Or to what? The horse. So horse would be the indirect object there. Notice the order, action verb, indirect object, direct object. You must have a direct object to have an indirect object. You will never have a direct object or indirect object inside a prepositional phrase. So if you look down here, we have Tom sent an action verb, Katie flowers before their date. So Tom sent what? Flowers. To whom? Katie. Over here we have before their date, and that's a prepositional phrase. You will have no direct objects or indirect objects in there. Also, another note is that you can have a compound direct or indirect objects. They'll be connected by a conjunction, like in this sentence. So we have Dad gave as our action verb still, the horse, an apple, and oats. So Dad gave what? Apple and oats. To what? The horse would be the indirect object. Let's try a couple more examples. If you flip the page, you will see these. This is the first practice page in your packet. So they won the game. The subject would be they. What did they do? They won. Is that an action verb? Yes. So now that it's an action verb, you can look for direct and indirect objects. So they won what? The game. So you would put a DO above that. What about number 3? Elephants carry logs with their trunks. So we go through who or what is the sentence about. The elephants. What are they doing? They're carrying. Is that an action verb? Yes. So now we can look for a direct object. Elephants carry what? They carry logs. So that would be the direct object. What is with their trunks? Well, hopefully you know that it's a prepositional phrase. So can you have a direct object or indirect object in there? Absolutely not. So please do not put a DO or IO in here. That is it. Now you can finish practicing in your packet.